Welcome to my channel. My name is Nairi. I've got 2 adopted sons and I've been a foster carer, and today I want to talk about ages and stages of how neglect and a chaotic household would impact those children. So today we're going to look at babies. So say 0 to 3 months. Really, as soon as that baby starts to cry, that parent or that carer, that primary carer, knows they've got to go and respond to meet those needs. So normally a baby will cry for if they're hungry, if they need a nappy changed, whatever, they will cry, and the way that they are getting their needs met is to cry. And most parents, most of the time, will go and meet that need. Now I know there's different parental shall we say ways of doing things. Some people might let the baby cry a little bit longer and say, no, don't go and pick them up all the time. Other people will be picking them all the time, doing baby wearing. So there are different spectrums within that. Okay, but what we're talking about is the baby having their needs met the majority of the time, even 65% of the time. And so what you notice with a new baby is that they look for that attachment figure. So my daughter-in-law and my son have got a 3-month-old baby, might be 4 months now, but I've seen on many of the videos that they've made how he tracks her, she is his preferred attachment figure. This might be because she's feeding him herself, it could be because she's spending the majority of time, but she's the primary attachment figure. So when she is in the room, even if my son is having a lovely time and chatting with him, or he's tolerating other people quite happily, he is still keeping an eye on where she is, because he's learned at that very young age that if he needs anything, she is going to give him what he needs. And in this case it's milk, but other things as well. Okay, so it's not just about feeding, it's about being kept safe, it's about being kept clean and dry. So even though my son does a lot for him as well, he's building up this knowledge that his main person, because children, babies always have their primary attachment figure, and in a lot of cases that is the mother, not always, but in a lot of cases it is the mother, particularly if that mother is feeding. So yeah, he's learned that to keep an eye on where his milk's coming from, but keep an eye on her. And so if you imagine a household where those needs are not met, so the house is chaotic, there's a lot going on. This might be because there are a number of children, and obviously when there are more children it is harder to meet the needs of a younger baby, but again most parents will manage to juggle that somehow. So imagine a house where there are lots and lots of things going on, and not necessarily positive things going on, and the baby is put down and is crying and left quite a long time. Maybe they're not changed into clean, dry clothes very often. Maybe they're not responded to very often when they're crying. It could be that siblings are looking after the child, the baby, and doing the best they can, but they're not able to have the understanding around what a baby really needs, and so siblings might be a little bit rougher with them, may not get the signals right from the child. So the child might be crying because they have a wet or dirty nappy, but a sibling might read that as something else, that they're hungry. And again, if a parent is not paying attention to the baby very much, they may read the signals wrong or not read them at all. And in extreme cases, if a baby's just left in a cot to cry, and I know this is really upsetting to think about, it is for me to think about, and they're just not having any of their needs met because this, either the parent is really neglectful or the house is so chaotic that the parent, whether they have addictions or they have other priorities, is just not meeting that baby's needs, then the younger child is not going to look for those needs to be met. Eventually will just shut down. It could be that sometimes the needs are met and sometimes they're not, so they might cry and get their needs met sometimes and other times not. But what you can see here is that whereas I gave you the example of my daughter-in-law always pretty much meeting those needs, of course she gets tired, of course sometimes she gets it wrong, but that baby looking and knowing that she is going to do that, then a younger baby that is trying to build attachment where that's not happening cannot build a positive attachment with a primary caregiver. Therefore, if you want the actual terms, is likely building an insecure attachment. This tells them that adults are not necessarily going to be trusted. They can't trust one adult or two adults or even siblings to come and meet their needs. But more importantly, they can't trust that primary adult to meet the need. So you do find in some chaotic households, some neglectful households, some abusive households, that the siblings are doing the majority of the caring. But that doesn't allow that baby to build an attachment with an adult and trust an adult. And this is where the difference between a secure attachment and insecure attachment is starting at that very, very, very young age. Think about a newborn baby and how most parents, most of the time, just want to hold the baby close. You know, you've got things like skin to skin. You've got so much more knowledge about how interactions with newborns really make a difference. But then imagine when that's not happening. Imagine if that parent is not that bothered about holding the baby close, having skin to skin, talking, making eye contact. Babies are starting to recognize faces so early and working out that the adult is cooing at them, making eye contact, holding them close. They're getting all those wonderful messages from very, very early on. But what about if they're not getting that? And now you begin to build a picture how that sets or doesn't set the foundation for the next stage. So the next stage perhaps might be 3 to 6 months when more stimulation is happening and you're expecting a parent to provide a little bit more activity, not just holding all the time. I mean, the opposite situation could be a parent that actually has their own mental health issues and is constantly just holding the baby and not then looking for ways to increase stimulation as that very, very tiny newborn baby reaches the point where they are wanting to look at things and do more. So my next video will be around, we'll talk about 3 to 6 months. Let's go slow, okay? So that's 0 to 3 months on the difference between, chaotic and neglectful as opposed to meeting needs quickly, and how we understand the children that we care for as foster carers and adopters that have childhood trauma, early childhood trauma, and why even if a child is like 2 years old and they come to you and you think that perhaps that's really early to put things right, when you think about the damage that could be done very, very early with a newborn, then you begin to understand the things that you have to undo and the things that you begin to deal with. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you are interested in adoption, fostering, childhood trauma, please give me a follow and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.